Oh, welcome back to oldhalloween.com. Hey, we're going to talk about something today that, frankly, we don't talk about very often. Most of us who collect vintage don't talk about an awful lot unless you primarily collect this particular type of antique or vintage Halloween item, and that is celluloid. There's also a viscoloid, early plastics, but these celluloid pieces are pretty hard to find, and I don't have a lot of them because I am not a big collector of celluloid. I love them. I think they're fantastic. It's just I don't tend to collect them for a couple of different reasons. One, because I don't have the perfect place to sort of take care of them. I don't have a great display area for them. Lots of reasons, but some folks actually have all of those things. They have the means to be able to acquire and collect them. They certainly have display areas for them. They can highlight them. They know how to take care of them, preserve and conserve them, and that sort of thing. So I want to talk about celluloid for just a couple of moments, and then we're going to actually look at a brand spanking new price guide we have for celluloids that we just were able to get up and published this week. So join me to talk about Halloween celluloids. These are fantastic. Right, while I was looking at my friend here, the little roly-poly celluloid cat, I also quickly, and with my other hand, typed in a request to ChatGPT. And what we're looking at here is ChatGPT's response to my question about the history and composition of celluloid, which we find goes all the way back to the 1850s and 60s. Before it was celluloid, it was parkazine, and then John Wesley Hyatt recognized that he could take parkazine, or essentially plant celluloid-based material, plant-based material, and he could stabilize it by using camphor, of all things, to plasticize and stabilize it to a degree. But you'll notice in this same list, and this is ChatGPT pulling from the web, of course, after it became widely used in things like photographic film, folks recognized that it burns. It burns like crazy. It's very easy to catch on fire. So I guess for those of you out there who might happen to have large celluloid collections, if your house ever catches on fire, stay away from your celluloid cabinet because this stuff will go up like crazy. An example would be, think about all of the films out there that actually used films to start fires or to create explosions, because those films are also made out of cellulosic material. But in any event, celluloid was or is cellulosic material that was created using some sort of nitric acid and then restabilized with camphor, but it catches fire. But in any event, it was used in the early years, even of the 20th century, to create products like this one. And there are several different kinds of Halloween cellulose or celluloid collectibles. We're going to look at a few of those today, but I wanted to start there because I thought that might be kind of fun just to know what the history is and also what the composition of celluloid material is. And there you have it. So these little guys are made out of cellulosic plastic. Very lightweight, very flexible. Apparently when it's first made, it's also very easy to dye. So it's all the things that early makers of these novelties would be very interested in using to create them, because it was also relatively inexpensive. So again, easy to dye, very lightweight, easy to make, super easy to mold. All those things, again, that made it very easy for the novelty trade. And among other holidays, Halloween was one of those holidays that received a great deal of interest from the celluloid producing sectors of the industry. Now, one last thing before we look at a really good price guide, at least in my estimation, a good price guide on some of these early vintage and antique celluloid Halloween pieces. And that is that when you look at some of the guides, they will talk to a degree about early 1920s as sort of a catch-all. And then, especially the Viscoloid company out of Massachusetts, but then you'll also have some that talk about 1925 to 1927, and they'll sometimes use the word DuPont, and it looks like DuPont most likely acquired the Viscoloid company at that point and was obviously one of the early players, not just in plastics from a cellulosic perspective, but also plastics even from a petroleum-based perspective. And of course, we know DuPont now to be a major petro player in the global economy. All right, let's do something that's a little bit different than just staring at this one little black cat. Let's look at a number of different really good examples of antique celluloid Halloween novelties and get a sense of what they evaluate for based on a new price guide we just put together. We're going to kind of scroll and talk here, but this is actually a price guide. You can find it by going to oldhalloween.com, and click on resources. The drop down gives you a space in the menu for price guides. Click on price guides. When you go there, you'll see we have a number of different price guides. One that we have just been able to publish here is the celluloid and viscoid pieces price guide. And again, this covers most of the most collectible. I'm sure there are some examples of celluloid pieces that may not be in the guide yet. Eventually they'll get here, but we already have 40 really well-known forms. So right off the bat, we've got the Noma Jack-o'-lantern celluloid light set from the 1930s. Oftentimes you will see just the bulbs. In fact, just a few days ago, a 4-inch bulb from this set by itself sold for over $200. This set can easily go for well north of $1,000. Looking back at several hammer price instances, this has easily sold in good shape. This is sold when it has the entire cord, all the bulbs, has sold for well over $2,000. So the Noma celluloid set is glorious. There's also a particular small witch called Witch with Fire. I'm highlighting this right here because you can see that she has fire. It's not quite 5 inches tall, and this has recently gone for well over $2,000. Again, these are very, very lightweight, They're very small. They were very easy to destroy. It's one of the reasons why they certainly fall within or under the umbrella of ephemera, and it's worth our time to pay attention to these pieces. But again, Witch with Fire, and you'll notice this example is a witch with multiple colors. This is the Witch with Fire with just 2 colors. There are a number of these early pieces that come in at least 2 different color schemes, and we wanted to call attention to that because if you're ever looking for them, rather than assuming that they're different, assume maybe the same mold, but they had different dyeing techniques to give a couple of different color schemes. Here is the witch on a cart with a black cat, and you can see the black cat is actually pulling the cart. This is another example. You can see 2 different color schemes here where you get those multiple color schemes from Japan in the 1920s. There's a nice breakdown of lots of different images, just so you can see the things you need to know if you're ever trying to identify these out in the wild. Here is a celluloid egg with a witch and a black cat by a cauldron. This is a great look, and clearly this is an example, I believe, that many folks refer to as a DuPont example. So this is a 1925 through 1927 viscoloid example, but a really pretty example. Here is a Veggie Man with head and legs. In this instance, you see that he doesn't have any arms. These have really shot up in value in the last couple of years. This is also well north of $2,000 for a good example that hasn't been chewed up. I have seen a few of these that looks like dogs at some point thought they were dog chew toys. It doesn't take much for a dog to run one of these forevermore because they are so lightweight. Here is a Veggie Man with arms. So if you're wondering about the arm thing, here's an example of one where he doesn't just have head and legs. He has head, a torso, legs, arms, feet, and also found in many cases well above $2,000 these days. And he has, I'll just talk back and forth, he has painted on his torso on one side a witch, on the other side a bat. And we've seen him in oranges and very light orange, almost a white version before. Here's a witch holding a cat. So earlier we saw a witch with fire. Here we have a witch with cat example. And of course she has a checkered outfit in one color scheme. Here's the orange and black colored scheme. Here is a witch in a pumpkin house stirring a cauldron. The pumpkin house, clearly it has sort of an egg-ish shape, but it is a pumpkin, supposedly. That's the thematic. The witch clearly wants good luck. She even has a little horseshoe above her, but here she is inside of her house stirring the cauldron, and that has brought well north of $1,500 on more than one occasion. Here's a witch in a corncob car. This is a particular form that has seen a couple of different color schemes as well, usually well north of $1,000. Here is an owl on a stump with a squirrel, and here's a squirrel down here. That is the black and the orange version. I believe there's another color scheme, but we're still searching just to make sure that's correct. Here is a witch holding a cat and emerging from a jack-o'-lantern. Very, very cool piece that often brings well above $1,000. Few examples, different angles. Here is a jack-o'-lantern headed boy with an owl and a squirrel on a stump. So he's embracing the owl. Down here is the squirrel. And if I recall, yeah, it seems like there might be a couple of different color schemes of this piece also. And it also usually brings well above $1,000. Here is an owl and a hat on top of a jack-o'-lantern. That's kind of a cool little piece. It almost looks like a holiday ornament, doesn't it? So that's certainly a unique feature as well. Here's an Art Deco clown on a jack-o'-lantern. I think this is a really cool piece. And I don't recall if I have seen more than the black and orange version, but we're still looking to see if there is a different color scheme for this one as well. It will regularly bring well above $1,000 if you can even find one. Again, most of these are very, very rare, but if you do find one, some of them can be found more often than others, and those will tend to be below $1,000, but as you can see, most of the ones we've looked at so far, well above the $1,000 mark. Here's an owl with a witch hat and spectacles. And I believe, yeah, we have seen, I think we have found an instance online. We're just looking for some verification where there may be a black-orange color scheme, but still very cool. He has his specs, usually more than $1,000 for that piece. Same thing for the cat pushing the witch in the carriage or the perambulator. You can see the black cat here, and he's pushing the witch, usually well above the $1,000 mark, and that is a 1920s, early 1920s Viscaloid piece. Here is the witch holding a cat on top of a jack-o'-lantern. That usually brings more than $1,000. That was also early 1920s. Here's a pumpkin man, and the pumpkin man has of late inched well up to and past the $1,000 mark, but he's still very cool. Looks almost like he's singing to you, almost like he is spending some time singing to you. This is an example of one, I believe, one of those DuPont pieces as he falls between the 1925 and 1927 years. Here is a witch with a broom, roly-poly, which means kind of like my black cat here that has the roly-poly bottom. If you were to let them jiggle, they would actually rock because they're a roly-poly. So just like this one, I'll be careful with that. But this is a witch with a broom, $850 plus on the reg. Here is a black cat on a jack-o'-lantern roly-poly. So this is a roly-poly and black cat that would also move around like a roly-poly, well above $800 on a regular basis. Here's a witch with a hat, and this witch with a hat has a couple of different forms. Most of them are orange plus versions of black, usually well more than $450. Here's an example where the orange is really, really light, and you can see the black here in this instance. There are some instances where you have this orange and maybe just the bow, or just the color, or the color in the bow is black. All right, let's scroll on down to number 22. This is the googly eyes black cat with a wide smile, very Cheshire cat, but this is a black cat, of course. Well above $500 on a regular basis. This is Japan 1920s, and it looks like these are really starting to rise in price. Here is a witch driving a car with a black cat, and there are a couple of different color schemes with this particular one, but I love the look of it. It's a carefree witch. She is an early auto, usually above $800 for these pieces. Here is a celluloid egg with a broom witch, usually above $700. Here is a witch pulling a cat in a pumpkin cart, sort of a turnabout on the black cat pushing the witch, right? Here's the witch is pulling the black cat in the cart. That's usually well above $800, and it does have multiple color schemes. Here is a pirate with a sword pulling a ghost in a cart. And there are different color gradations for this particular piece, but it usually brings well above $800. Here is a jack-o'-lantern headed man holding an owl, and there are cats that flank his legs. That is usually well above $800. And in this instance, you can see there are usually multiple color schemes. That's also early 1920s. Here is a jack-o'-lantern headed man with cats. We just had that one just below. So this one and this one, those will certainly need to be, no, there is a difference. There's a difference. So in this instance, We have the US-based version. I believe in this instance, we have what looks like a Japanese influence, but probably has been attributed to the Viscaloid company also, but he's slightly different. So in this case, you can see the straight tie. In this instance, you can see he sort of has the old-fashioned collar and vest on, but he also has, but rather than cats, the more I look at this, I'm going to get a close look at one of these. There's maybe owls flanking his legs. We'll have to make an adjustment to that. But he has brought well above $650 for this particular theme. Here is a roly-poly cat that tends to bring above $700, and he wobbles in a roly-poly fashion. Here is a black cat rattle. Let's see, here's the entire handle of it. That tends to bring above $600. Here is a perched owl. And the example that we have shown here is a rare example. There are a couple of different color schemes, if I recall, for this particular piece. And that is an unmarked piece. Some folks believe it might be Viscaloid company also. Here is a celluloid egg with 2 perched owls that tends to go above $500. Here is a pirate roly-poly. I'm guessing, in my estimation, this is maybe one of the more undervalued pieces, but it has only come up a few times. And those are some early prices. It says $650 plus. My guess is if this came to market anytime soon, that this would go much higher than $650 because it's rare, at least in terms of how often it comes up or comes available on the market. Here's a Baker Boy. This is one that shows up in the guides, but doesn't show up on eBay or the auction houses all that often. That usually goes well above $500. Here's a black cat with a red ribbon on a jack-o'-lantern. This one usually goes well above $500, and it's from the 1920s as well. Here is a scarecrow pirate, and if I recall, yeah, there are maybe a couple of different color schemes for this one. I believe that you can find these in both flat bottom and roly-poly, and they usually go above $700. So be watching for those, especially if you collect roly-polies. Watch for him because he is just super duper cool. Now he's both a pirate and a scarecrow. Here's a black cat roly-poly like the one I was showing you. The one we have in our picture here has an orange bottom. The one I was holding up has an orange bottom, and I believe there's also a green bottom for these folks. Those tend to go above $400 pretty well. Here is an owl on a stump, very, very easy name to remember. That usually goes well above $250. Here's a squirrel eating acorns. That usually goes for around the $200 mark. And here is a round witch holding an ace of spades. Now, right now, we have this listed because the pricing shows it's based on hammer prices and trends, shows this to be only about $285 plus. My guess is this would also go much, much higher like the piece we mentioned just above, because it doesn't come up very often. In my estimation, this might be a little bit more scarce than, at least from a collecting perspective, than maybe we might expect these days. We'll end here with the Black Cat Rattler on the swing at a little over $250 on average. And right now, we do not know. We're guessing that this may be Japanese, but we're not quite sure. It may be US as well, but still a very, very cool piece. And of course, we're still finding pieces and we're still adding pieces to the list. You're going to find 40 plus examples, really well known celluloid Halloween. All right, so that's all me and my friend have for you today. We wanted to show you that we have the price guide up, that the price guide is based on actual hammer prices, where what things have brought their actual values, and we follow the trends to see what the value right now, today, what that value should be. If you were to go out and maybe be lucky enough to find a celluloid piece, what you would expect to pay tippy top for. Of course, most of us collectors like to try to find things more affordably. So watch the price guide, and if you happen to get something that's extremely below the price guide, as long as it's authentic, consider that a deal, and good luck to you. This is Kurt for oldhalloween.com. I hope you've enjoyed our show today. A very, very short piece just on the price guide. Of course, check out all of our other price guides by navigating to oldhalloween.com, clicking on resources, price guides, and then the price guide dashboard. You're going to find a number of different price guides. As we update and build additional price guides, you'll find them there. Additionally, don't forget, you do want to sign up for our newsletter. It goes out monthly, and we give you a bunch more details about the things that we observe out in the world that you want to check out, about additional resources, but also all the other things that we're noting about the vintage and antique Halloween collectibles that we're seeing today. So definitely check those out. Thanks, y'all.